But Jude Bellingham is leaving Dortmund, but he is not going to England. He will be going to join the All Whites in Real
Los
Madrid.
Blancos.
The Blancos. Yep.
So
Jude
you,
Bellingham
as our
for 100 million and about 30 million in add-ons, which was his transfer value. Surprisingly, with all these, a lot of the times the reported transfer value isn't exactly what gets paid, but in this case, all the reports were that he was worth 130 million transfer value, and that's what Real Madrid have just paid. Um, he's an excellent talent. I think this is a great signing for an aging Madrid midfield. Um, they're building for the future, and assuming that they can get their wingback situation sorted out. I mean, think about now going from Kroos and Modric to Bellingham and Camavinga. That's a pretty good combination, both with World
and
Cup
Valverde.
experience and Valverde. That's serious World Cup experience already for youngsters. Having gone through that. Bellingham, of course, with England, and Camavinga um, getting a little bit lucky with the injuries to Conte and Pogba, but still showing up and showing that he deserves to be on that French team for now and in the future. Um, we did mention earlier that Benzema is out. He's going to Saudi Arabia, so that leaves a hole. Um, I I wasn't really sure, but luckily I do have a friend who is a pretty big Real Madrid fan, and he's telling me that he's I don't know if it's like a Madrid thing or but he likes Harry Kane. He thinks Harry Kane would be a good replacement, and you know what? I
So
have
before
to
we get
agree.
into that, let's I want to talk a little bit more about Jude. Um, so I think Real Madrid is very, very masterful at finding replacements before it's absolutely necessary. Obviously, talk about Benzema in a second. That was a little bit of a shell shock, I guess. I mean, not really. I guess people figured he was going to leave soon. But look, you still have Modric and you still have Cruz there, but now it's going to be so deep in that midfield now because now adding Jude in there, um, I'm curious to see if they feel like Camavinga's ready to make that step to take over Cruz or Modric.
I think they should, because I think after the Champions League uh, against City, it showed that they are, as legendary as they are. I mean, Modric. I mean, come on now, one of the greatest midfielders of all time of our generation. Um, it's not common that someone just kind of sneaks up and steals the Ballon d'Or from Messi and Ronaldo, but Modric was that guy. Same thing with Benzema, but we'll get to that. Um,
But I think what's so good because I think Valverde
but I
really
do
came
think
onto
that,
his
yeah, I,
own
I think
this
Valverde is
past year.
great. I think Camavinga needs to play in the midfield. He's been really good considering he's been played out of position.
And
Jude
now
Bellingham,
and
we
now
all
with
know
Bellingham
what Jude Bellingham is capable
going
of.
to be an
I think
instant
they,
starter.
I think that it's going to help now with Modric and Kroos getting old. I think they do need to lean in this younger direction and having those older heads in the locker room, and maybe having like one of them play. Like if you have Camavinga and Bellingham and Valverde, and like you decide to just maybe just have Modric or just have Kroos in and sub them in for certain situations and not have to have both of them in, I think that's better for Madrid, because I think that having,
I think
no disrespect, but having the two old men running around and controlling your midfield, um, it's great when you have the ball, but you're not always going to have the ball.
no, yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Like I think it's gonna be perfect because you're still gonna have those players, you're still gonna have that quality, you're still gonna have that experience. It's just these guys. I mean, do you want them going 90 minutes week in and week out? And now you're having Jude Bellingham in there who could easily step in for one of them. And like I think it's adding so much more depth. And now you can like you said, you can have like maybe in the 60th, 70th minute, we need a little bit more quality. Um, or if you just feel like an injury might happen or um, someone's just gassed and they need to get off, you now have a reliable replacement who I think Modric, he can give you a really good 30 minutes. 100. He can give
I
you a
agree. I
very good,
agree.
even
He's
at his
someone.
older age.
He's the kind of
Like
guy like
90,
Cruz
no,
too, but
but
Modric. He's the kind of guy you want at least in your locker room. Um, I know if you're watching this
and
podcast,
I
you might
trust him
not
with 30
agree.
minutes
You
for
you might
sure.
not know exactly this comparison, but I like to think of it like the value of having someone. Like people make fun of Udonis Haslem for the Miami Heat. It's like that man doesn't hasn't touched the court in years, and
Yeah,
they're
but I
still
don't think
paying him. And it's
Madre.
like, why do you have? Oh, I'm just saying it's. I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm just saying it's important for a team to have a character that fits your locker room and knows how the team operates. So that's why Udonis Haslem is still there, because just having him in the locker room is builds the team up. It gives them that character, and I feel like Modric, it's a similar thing. He's got that experience. He's at this point he's kind of like the wise old midfielder. um, uh, one of my favorite. I don't remember what it was from. It was some like comedy sketch that like some British channel that came up with, and they would this guy had a character where he was like the deluded Liverpool fan, so he would commentate over the games. And it's like one time, like Modric scored a goal on Liverpool, and he's like, "Oh, you witch-nosed bastard!" And I'll always think of him like that. Like he's the witch-nosed Luka
Yeah,
Modric. But I
he's
mean,
still. He's. I think he's got juice left.
he's
He
got
just can't do
juice
a
in
full
him.
90.
Yeah, exactly. You got a midfield here. You're competing with players in the game like City has. They're great players, but you need to keep up because they were showed in the semifinals exactly what they're missing out on. So this is a big deal. We're gonna see how it progresses over the into the season if other signings that they make, because with Benzema out, now we can transition to this with Benzema going to
Well, I
Saudi
was gonna say
Arabia.
real quick too. Like, I think
Yeah,
he's. It's gonna be really good for him to play at a team like Real Madrid that's in Champions League year in and year out. Not to say Dortmund isn't, but like Dortmund doesn't really make runs like they have, like
and
Real Madrid does. And I
players
think
have a
it's
good history of leaving Dortmund to go on to play for these big
yeah.
teams and being
And
ready.
I
Dortmund's
think
good at getting your players ready for
yeah,
for the next step.
and I think if you're an England fan, I think you have to be excited. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, every English fan wants him to play in the Prem, but I think playing at Real Madrid is going to be really good for him in a sense of like what you see from him in Champions League. I think he's going to
Yeah,
get more consistent, high quality matches versus Dortmund. They're going to go against a high quality team once they get out of the group stage, but then they most likely get knocked out right after that one leg. Versus Real
yeah,
Madrid, you're going to be pushing for the finals almost every single year. So this is going to give him a chance to like get experience against a Chelsea, a Liverpool, a Arsenal, a City, and have multiple Champions League legs to go after, and then also playing with higher quality talent around him and
yeah,
being able to understand and play with people, because it is hard for players to kind of transition to like playing with people that are below his level to now playing with people that are higher than your level. And I think now that's going to be good for him. So when he goes to play for England, he's going to be more used, and playing internationally, he's going to be more used to playing against people playing with and against people at a higher level versus
yeah,
the Bundesliga. That bottom half of the Bundesliga just isn't as strong as La Liga as a whole. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think
definitely.
I think it's going to be really good. But yeah, go with the Benzema thing. Benzema's out to Saudi Arabia. Who's the replacement?